How's everybody doing today? Happy New Year. We're gonna kick the year off in style. Let's go. All right, Happy New Year. It is a new year. I know everybody's been waiting for this time. And what better way to start off the new year than with getting our golf setup dialed in. And I'm gonna go over the top 3 things, top 3 mistakes that we make in our setup and what we need to do to fix it. That way you can get things dialed in just in time for golf season when it warms up a little bit. All right, let's get to it. All right, so first things first. This is what you need to do. You need to have some type of recording device to videotape your golf swing. I don't care what you use, but use something so that you can record it and then make sure you're doing the right things, because we should never make mistakes in the setup. We should always be able to get that down pretty good. But we got to see if we're doing it. Otherwise, we might not get it just right. So what I like to use is the V1 Golf app. It's free. You can get it on your phone. Link in the video description below. I will be using that today to show you. But I'm going to use the desktop version, and I have the V1 app or cameras in my studio that I'll be using. But it's virtually very similar. It's pretty similar to the phone app that you can download and get for free. So you do all the same stuff on there pretty much as you can do with the desktop version that I have in here. So let's dive into setup and the top 3 mistakes that we're all making. First of all, here's what I see. We get set up here and our shoulder, most people are right-handed and their dominant side is their right side. So they like to bring this right shoulder up, and you start setting up with the shoulder higher on the right side than the left side. So we have to adjust for that, or we have to make sure we're setting up properly for that. So when you get set up, you're gonna be like this, and this shoulder comes up too high. And if you do that, you're an over-the-topper, you're a big divot aims way left, and you come over the top, you slice it a lot. We don't want you to do that, and that's all just setup based. If you could just fix your setup a little bit there, you can avoid a lot of those problems. So let's get that dialed in. Instead of here, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're gripping it first with your left hand, and then your right hand slides underneath, and that right shoulder is coming down, not over. Okay, so that's mistake 1. When that happens, you get here, you get your shoulder over, and your hips come over as well. So you get right hip high, right shoulder high, and you're kind of like this. This is an exaggeration of what you're doing, but this is what you're doing, and it looks like this, okay? So here's what you're gonna do. Grip left hand first, then let that right hand slide underneath and make sure this shoulder is coming down just a little bit. Get a little bit of what they call right lateral bend, just a touch right here. So you're just gonna bend down, just dip that right side down. It should get that right hip lower than the left, and you should be good to go. And this is where you wanna be on your initial setup in terms of your hips and shoulders. Then when we look at that on the golf swing, on the face on view here, here's what we're looking for, okay? When you get your app, you can see if you draw a line from shoulder to shoulder, you should have a little bit of degree of tilt there. That's about 11 degrees is what I have. And you can see that my hips are pretty level. So any less than this right hip here would start creeping up higher than it should be. And that's something that we don't want to have happen. So you got to keep that right shoulder down. Is going to be the first key to your success right there, okay? And then it's going to help you bring that club over here more from, you're going to be able to attack more from the inside as you come down if that shoulder is down at setup. So you get this right shoulder set up correct, okay? Then when you attack into the ball, it's gonna be lower rather than higher. Okay, tip number dos. Here's what I see, or I should really say huge mistake number 2 that we must fix is this. And I always talk about hand position. Where do our hands go? And this is critically important because what happens is a lot of people like to put their hands forward, way forward. Here's what happens when you put your hands too far forward in the golf swing, okay? Like, it makes sense. You want your hands forward at impact, so why not start with them there? But here's why that totally doesn't make sense. If my hands are forward here at the start, I've used all my room to move forward. So I'm already here. This at impact would be cool. But if I start here, the only, let's say, flexibility I have in my swing is going backwards because I can't go more forward. So that's what happens. What happens is people start way forward and then they think their hands should be forward at impact, so they try to push it more forward and you just hit horrible shots because you don't have that room in your golf swing. So I like to start in the center. Now all I have is room to go forward. So I have that freedom to be more forward at impact and feel that. But if I start there, the only freedom I have is going backwards. And we don't want that in the golf swing. So I like to start with my hands and everything right in the middle, right in the center, okay? Even the ball. Everything from all my wedges through my 5-iron, I'm fairly center in my ball position. And then when I go, let's say 5-iron, 4-iron, I start to move it a little bit forward, and then driver 3-wood, I get a little more forward. But I rarely ever go back unless it's a specialty shot. And then I like my hands right down the center. And that's easy to do, and it's easy to be consistent at that because you just do one of these, grab your grip right here in front of your nose, and drop it straight down, get your right lateral bend, you're good to go. Also, when you set up center, now you can just control your foot width, okay? Instead of moving your hands, it's a very small muscle, I would just move my width. The shorter the shot, the more narrow you are. And then you have that freedom again to drive forward, which is gonna help you hit the ball first and get your hands in front of the ball at impact. And then the longer clubs, when you want a little more shallow swing, you start widening the stance. But it all comes down to where are your hands at setup. And I like my hands right here in the center, and that way everything from here I can just think drive forward. So when drive forward is your thought process, you know, hopefully you're able to do that. Here's the setup, pretty centered. Everything's right where I like it. You can come back and start driving forward. And there you go. My hands are in much more forward at impact than setup, because I had that room to move forward. But if my hands were already there at setup, most likely it would be farther back at impact. And that's what we want. Here's setup. Here's my hands at setup. Okay, this is my left hand. And then where's my hand at impact? You come down, there's my hand at impact. And you could see how much room, how much space we had there to maneuver, because we had the correct setup position in terms of where our hands were. So you could see with that, just analyzing the swing, yeah, here's setup, here's impact, that's what you want. If you set up here, impact's gonna be back there more often than not. We don't want that. There's one more thing that we must do, otherwise our lives just would not be complete. Come on. Okay, so I'm hoping you're liking this video. If you are, make sure you hit that like button. Also, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any future videos that come out. And there's one more piece of our setup that we must fix that's killing our game, and it is this. You might have guessed it. It is our alignment. And here's what gets off. You know, you could be set up good here. You can have your hands in a good position, but there's two pieces of your alignment that you must be able to check. And filming your swing is going to really, really be something that's going to benefit you. So you can check these things. And I'll show you exactly what we're looking for. One, we're looking for our shoulders, okay? We don't want shoulders to be pointed left, and too far right is no good. So we gotta make sure they're in line. And then again, the other piece is our hips, which you can measure with your thigh. A lot of people like to stagger their legs to the left or to the right, or to the left, or to whichever way is left and right. And so we've gotta we gotta check these things when we're out there. Because if you fix these major issues, then what's going to happen is a lot of your swing problems are just going to disappear. But when you line up incorrectly, your body tends to correct with a swing flaw, is what it does. And that messes you up. All right? So I'll show you exactly what we're looking for. Let me show you what we're looking for in our setup. And the down the line view, which is this one, is really going to be key. And so I have a decent setup here, but you can see what I want to see here that I'm not seeing is my left arm. I see my right arm, but I don't see my left arm. So we want to adjust for that. So that's something you need to look at. Now, both my thighs are perfect. I see those perfectly right where I want, okay? So I would imagine, because I see my right arm and not my left, that I'm gonna come slightly over the top of this swing a little bit on the downswing. And yeah, we're above that line. We're a little higher than we wanna be. So what we have to do is we have to correct that. So you can see what, you know, it's easy to make that mistake, and it's the subtle thing. So what I'm gonna do this time is set up here, and then I just wanna make sure this right arm, I pull it back a little bit so that my left shoulder is a little more forward, not up higher, just turned a little bit, okay? And that's really gonna help us. So let's see what that swing looks like. Now that felt really solid, and but let's see what the setup looked like. You don't want to make huge adjustments. Now you can see already that this is great. I can see my left arm above my right arm, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what we want to see. And let's see if that swing turned out a little better. Coming down, and I'm much more on plane. I get under the line a lot sooner. And it was a pretty solid strike. So that was way better, all because I had a much better setup. And yeah, I had 171 carry, a little inside out, little 8-yard draw. So pretty good there, a lot more distance than previously. So those are the keys. As you can see, we really want to make sure that our setup is getting dialed in so that because we can practice this anywhere, indoors, whatever, and use a little video, something to look at your setup so you can get that perfect. Because once you just need a little bit of practice on setup, it will change so much of your golf game, your golf swing, and things will be moving in the right direction when it gets a little warmer and we can get out and play like every day. All right, so hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Work hard, stay safe out there. Love you guys. See you in the next video.